You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Osmanski, a one-timer deflected side of the goal. Alexandrov scores!
Hosted by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the Teamers in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast.
And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney.
And this episode of the SRG Podcast is proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield and their new location in Amherst, and also by our friends at YOLO Healthcare Consulting, bridging the gap for those traversing the healthcare landscape, and by our friends at Landscaping That Fitz, proudly serving East Longmeadow, Agawam, Springfield, and the Wilbraham area for all of your landscaping needs, as it is that time of the year. Alongside Matt Baker, I am Steve Forney. Matt, what's going on today? How are you, pal?
I'm doing well. We're, hitting the grind here at school a little bit in between vacations, but, we're getting there. How about you guys?
A little helter-skelter, but we're getting through it, That's what we signed up for this life we have. So we do have a lot of stuff to get to here on the podcast after a busy weekend and a busy weekend coming up as well. We do have the Pink in the Rink night on the way. Those jerseys just got released earlier this week, and those things are absolutely mint. I want to mention how sweet those look. Unfortunately, though, I can't believe we have to start this way. We spend all day disciplining students, and we spend all day disciplining our own children. And now we have to start our podcast by apologizing to the Bridgeport Islanders because some fan, I don't even want to call them a fan because Thunderbirds fans wouldn't do this. Some moron had to go and throw and dump popcorn on the Bridgeport bench at the end of that game, which to me is basically the most childish thing that anybody can do. A grown-ass adult doing that. That is just so not acceptable. It does not represent Springfield. It doesn't represent the Thunderbirds fans. There's a reason why these events happen so rarely here in Springfield, because I think that these people respect the game. These fans respect their opponent. These fans respect the arena. They respect the staff, the management, everything that goes into it. And for something like that to happen, and for me, I'm annoyed. I have to make the announcement to basically tell all you grown adults to behave. And it's a sad reflection. It's an unfortunate reflection, because when I'm looking at the comments and I'm looking at the people commenting, I know who you are, you diehard Springfield Thunderbirds fans, and I know that you're not going to do any of this. And if there's one positive takeaway, it's the fact that as soon as this dweeb started doing that, pretty much everybody in the arena was pointing him out to security. Like, it's this guy, get him out of here. This doesn't fly here. Yeah. And again, I don't know, maybe you're not used to starting to drink at 3 p.m. on a Sunday and 5:30 catches up to you, but that's just so not tolerated, and it was infuriating when it happened. And so, again, on behalf of the team and the fans, apologies to the Bridgeport Islanders for that happening.
Yeah. There's no place for that. I would say this, I'm not proud of the incident, but I guess I'm proud of reaction of the fans. And, it's, the old, you see something, say something kind of thing. I mean, there's not the type of person you want to be protecting. I'm not one for violence and condoning it, but, I would not feel bad if that individual had gotten a stick to the face. You kind of deserve it. And I'm glad it didn't get to that, because then that means more restrictions, and it would have meant more, it would have been bad for everybody. But it just, I don't get it. And, you're a coward to do that sitting behind the glass, because you wouldn't do that walking down Bruce Landon Way. You wouldn't, you're not waiting for the Bridgeport Islanders to get on the bus post game to dump your popcorn on them. You're doing it behind the glass. So, if you're feeling big and you want to be the big man, do it when they can defend themselves, not behind a glass.
And to rewind, when Seth Helgeson got into that fight with Sam, and again, I'm right in the thick of it. There was a fan behind the bench who I believe, behind the penalty box, who I believe is I didn't get a look into who Helgeson was yelling at. And he has a history of doing that in Springfield. He gets heckled a lot. I mean, Al Arment loves to torture Seth Helgeson, loves it. And it wasn't Al, but there was somebody back there who, was chirping Helgeson, and he turned around and he gave it right back to him. And, to me, that is up to the player to control themselves. If somebody's going to yell at you from behind the glass, you can either turn around and say something back, or you can not. And these things happen at least a handful of times this season.
Yeah,
that I'm okay with, as long as you're not coming over the glass and trying to fight him, and then it turns into a Ty Domi situation. That's just banter between a player and a fan, which again was, it was R-rated, but it's not going to lead to anything else. You know what I mean? And,
sure.
And
yep.
Especially when you're a longtime season ticket holder and you want to go down that road. Good luck to you. Good luck. You're totally right. This is that's buffoonery behavior. Throwing popcorn on the bench, and again, all I wanted, that game was terrible. All I wanted to do was go home, and now we got to bring out the ice crew to clean up your popcorn off the ice, which again made me have to stay longer. And the ref came up to me and he said, "You have to announce to remind fans that if they throw anything on the ice, it's a minor penalty to your team." To me, that's not enough.
Yeah,
that's got to be a harsher penalty. You throw anything on the ice, your team gets 2 penalties, and you're down 5-on-3. Yeah. Or it's a 5-minute. There's got to be more discipline for fans throwing stuff on the ice. Because that's what's going to make it stop.
I agree with the point. I don't know if penalizing the team, obviously that individual should be kicked out. Not
probably never
back
invited
in the
back.
Mass Mutual, right? I do get your point, but I don't know if a 5-on-3, a 4-minute, kind of call it a double minor. I don't know if that, because I don't know if that stops anything.
Well, maybe if you're that kind of fan, you don't care what happens on the ice anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I don't know if that, I'm all for harsh consequences that curb behavior. So, press charges, assault, you leave the arena in cuffs, and then it could be up to the team whether or not they want to drop charges. I'm for that. Because it is, again, if you're walking down the street and you dump popcorn on somebody, that's a threatening, that's assault, so, but you're also not going to do that because you would get beat up, so the only reason you're doing that is because you feel brave behind glass. I don't tolerate that. That's nonsense to me. And it's a damn shame. And look, we know we're better than that. We are better than that. And, I do applaud the fans the real fans of the game, the real fans of the team who kind of did not defend that individual and kind of pointed him out and made sure he got whatever came his way.
And maybe we'll kind of work in reverse here, I guess, since we had to lead with the Bridgeport story, which to me is the number one thing that we had to hit on.
Yeah.
Looking back on that game again, I thought last Sunday's game in Bridgeport was the most frustrating game. I left that arena just so infuriated because there's no recipe. There's no. So our friend Katrina asked us on our Facebook page, why is there always so much violence on the sensory awareness night? And I thought you had a pretty good theory as to why.
This is my thought on it. I think I do want to be careful. I think first and foremost, I am for the sensory awareness night. But I think one thing that I've learned doing the show with the players that we've spoken to is they love the energy in the Thunderdome. They love the crowd. They love the signs. They love the banging on the glass pregame. The music's bumping. The fans are into it. They love that energy. We've also talked to players and Patrick Williams. When you go to a Bridgeport and you're playing in front of 1,000 fans, you get lulled to sleep a little bit. I think the reason, and we did not have an opportunity to talk to a player, so this is strictly just me speculating a bit. The energy level in a quiet game is lower. And I think one reason or one objective of sort of these fights early, especially with the new Bash brothers, the Bittens, is you're looking to interject. Like they probably feel this does not feel like a Springfield Thunderdome warm up. This does not feel like a big game early March. We need to win. Our energy level is not where it needs to be. I need to interject energy. I mean, that really is why fights happen kind of to begin with. I think very rarely is it's personal, and there's retaliatory reasons for some fighting, but it's to interject energy into your team. It's to let's go, boys. We're not moving here, and I think a lot of fights are because of that. I think, I do know Sam and Helgeson were kind of jawing at each other pregame a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, what can happen? Previous games, it's not like Sam Bitten has been in the lineup for a lot of Bridgeport games this year. So could they have been talking about something in the past earlier on the season? Maybe. Or Sam is just trying to get him going. He's like, hey, man, I'm coming after you. We got to I'm getting my team, so I think that's what it is. Katrina, that's my kind of guess is we're just trying to interject a little bit of energy, get our bench going, get the crowd going, and set the tone for Bridgeport, who we know plays on the edge. I don't like calling teams dirty teams, and I don't think Bridgeport is a dirty team, but they play on the edge. They like to try to get under your skin so you get taken out of your game, and I think especially that the Will Bitten fight, he took it like he kind of instigated that fight.
Yeah.
It was the check.
I don't think the other guy wanted to go.
I don't think he did either. He checked the other. I don't even know who it was.
Something. Yes, yeah.
He checked him. He fell on him. He held him, and then it was kind of like, we got to go. So I think you're just looking to interject a little bit of life and energy into the bench and into the crowd.
I agree, and I wonder if Helgeson kind of felt the same way. Like,
yeah,
there's not going to be any energy, so you want to bring up your team, I want to bring up my team too. Let's go.
Yeah, and
I felt that second point you were talking about Bridgeport playing on the edge. I thought that once they got a lead, they play with a I don't want to call it an arrogance, but they come into Springfield knowing that they're going to win.
Yeah,
and when they get up 2-0, 3-0, they know they're not going to lose.
Yeah.
And the days of the 3-goal third period comebacks are a month and a half ago, right?
We haven't had one in a while. Yeah.
So they played more on the edge in the last period and a half than they have all season because they knew that they could. And they knew that it didn't really matter. If they got penalties, so what? And there was the incident with Paul Ledoux who, cross checks. I've never seen he got 3 penalties on the play. He got cross-checking, roughing, and I don't know, interference, let's call it. I don't remember what it was. I got the game notes right in front of me, but hooking, roughing, and cross-checking. So he got called for the hook. The whistle blew. After the whistle, he cross-checks Gaudet, and then he gets a roughing call from roughing it up with I believe it was Wyatt Kalanick. Mm-hmm. So he gets 6 penalties on 6 penalty minutes on one play, but the Thunderbirds took 2 penalties themselves.
Yeah.
So that cross check was so blatant and should have been such a power play moment, but you're only netting 2 minutes of power play time because they know that they're under your skin and they are going to take you out of your game. And that's, Jacob Verana, Wyatt Kalanick, 2 penalties, go to the bench, go to the box. And now, what does Paul Ledoux care sitting in the penalty box for 6 minutes? Because he only gave up a 2-minute penalty kill, which we did not score on. So, I think there was definitely that. They were definitely playing on the edge, and they could afford to do it because of the history of the recent history between these two teams.
This is I've never seen a team that just appears to be so inferior, and again, I don't want to make it sound like I think Bridgeport is an ECHL team, but look, they're inferior talent wise, but yet so inferior mentally on this team. I've never seen something like it. It'll be interesting to see what happens. It's a quick turnaround with coming up this Friday in a few days. Again, Bridgeport comes to Springfield. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but Bridgeport is starting with a 2-0 lead just because they have a mental edge that I've never seen in sports before. Again, with a team that can't win anywhere else other than against Springfield. Like it's crazy to me. I have to laugh a little bit, even though I'm sure a lot of fans aren't really laughing about it. It's incredible. I've never seen something like it.
Yeah. So we did have, Bo Halkitis was the ref for both games. He actually just got not sent down from the NHL, but he's kind of on double assignment. And, one of the things we'll get into too with the Laval game is we keep track of who calls the penalties. Mm-hmm. And he called, I think his partner in the 2 games called a total of 2 penalties. He called all the other ones. Oof. So just kind of let him play a little bit, boys,
Do you think, and maybe this is a question for Casey, we'd love to have him on again. Like, if you are pulling double assignments, NHL, AHL, if you're looking at watching an AHL game, I don't mean to say like he's making up calls, but are your eyes just trained, or if you're just an AHL ref, you see a little bit more, let's call it sloppy play. So you live in more of an AHL world. Whereas when you are watching NHL guys with more control, with maybe a little bit more skill, you expect more control and then you don't see it. Like, I wonder if that plays a part.
I think there's a little bit of that. I think your expectations for a tight game from the players are heightened. And so when you see play a little more loosey-goosey, you're more willing to blow the whistle. I mean, but if you're Matt Kessel and you high stick a guy in the face and you get a 4-minute double minor because he's bleeding all over the place.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's what I mean. I'm not in trying to insinuate that he's making up calls. I wonder because that is, I was not aware of that, disparity in calls made and trying to make sense of it. I just wonder if that could play a part in it. I'm, an AHL guy is used to seeing AHL guys skate. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point because I think a lot of the penalties were so justified, but at the same time, you're looking at me like, come on, man, like, why do you have to call that there? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. I don't know about you. Are we done with Bridgeport? Can we just be done with that game?
Peace out.
Else on that one? Okay, cool. Awesome.
No.
I guess no. I'm all done. I will say, I was just going to say that the Will Bitton coming to the bench and if you watch the video replay, he and Sam do this beautiful, perfect handshake and then sit down in perfect synchronization. It was like synchronized sitting, and it was like I thought it was the coolest thing. I had to rewind.
You could see it on AHL. What was interesting too, and this will be the end on Bridgeport. Has nothing to do with Bridgeport, more the Bittons. I just love it, the energy that they interject. And so watching it on AHL TV, Sam's going into the box, he's banging the glass, he's sitting down, and you can tell he's still jacked. His legs are bouncing, can't sit still. In hindsight, I wonder if he knows Will's on a mission too, right? And he's because normally by the time you get to the bench, you're, adrenaline settled, but he was jacked up. He was ready to go. And then you see Will come to the bench on AHL TV. They did a good job showing it. And I saw exactly what you're talking about. They kind of do this little handshake. They sit down, they look at each other, fist bump. That was cool. That was a cool moment to see. And it was special having them on the show and being able to talk to them and get to know them a little bit more. I don't know. I love those guys.
Sam, Sam's always backed up. He got up. It was like 2 minutes into the penalty. I think Will had already fought, and they're both in the box, and he's looking at me. He's going, "Steve, let's go." And I'm like, like what? I don't know. Yeah, I'm supposed to talk quietly, man. I don't know. He's just an amped up guy. But now that you said what you said, I almost think Will Bitton, trying to get the crowd involved. I think he okay, sensory awareness. Like, we need more from the fans than we normally would.
Yeah.
Of course, my poor daughter, I guess, after the Will Bitten fight, turned to my wife and goes, "I thought this was supposed to be a quiet game."
Oh.
It's like a 4-year-old just hears what she hears and doesn't fully grasp what's going on. But,
Yep.
So the irony is that last night I had a something for my son, and there were 3 dads there. One of the dads went to Friday night's game. One dad went to Saturday night's game. And the first dad comes up and he goes, "Boy, that was a heck of a game this weekend." And the other 2 dads go, "What are you talking about?" Because he went to Friday night's game. The other 2 went to Saturday night's game, and it was 2 very different vibes.
Oh, the ups and downs of Springfield are drastic.
It's bananas. And I guess we'll start off with the Laval game, which again, the Thunderbirds won 7-3 and just really played well and really never let up on Laval. And I wonder if there's still a little bit of a rivalry between these 2 teams who don't see each other often, just dating back to that Calder Cup run, and I wonder if Chicago came in here, if they would still, it's not even the same rosters, but you still have that kind of feeling to it. But
that's a great point. And I mean, that was sort of one of the things watching it. I'm like, I can't believe this is the first time these 2 teams have played in 2 years, because the energy, I mean, that was a fun game to watch. You're talking about penalties. You're talking about fights. You're talking about guys you didn't know knew how to fight. I'm not trying to knock it, but like, it was incredible. And I'm like, this is what I want to see when they're playing Bridgeport. This is what I want to see when they're playing Providence or Hartford. This is what I want to see against Lehigh Valley, Laval. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
It should be a rivalry. They should play every year.
If only distance, I think, is the biggest problem. Distance and the border control,
Yeah, I get it.
But no, I mean, absolute shout out to Mikhail Abramov, who I loved his fight because he never even took one glove off of one hand.
Yeah.
He had the guy by the front of the jersey with his glove on and was just pounding him with the other hand, which I thought was great.
Yep.
And, Leo Loof, who again did the Will Bitten, crowd pump up gesture there. But I don't think there's been a more even keeled player this season, especially for a rookie at his age, than Leo Loof. And to see that little bit of emotion, and I mean, he was fired up, man.
He was heated. The body. We've talked about it too. I mean, I think we've been fair with our kind of critique of Loof. I love the guy. I think he plays great for a rookie. I think he plays great. Not I don't have to qualify him just as a rookie. I think he positions himself well. He plays physical when he needs to, but we also have said, like, can we see a little bit more? Can we see a little bit more finishing those checks with Leo Loof? So this was totally a guy you would probably last on your list of, hey, who's fighting tonight? Like, Leo Loof would not register as a potential candidate. So when you're seeing that, you're like, oh, all right, let this is kind of cool. But even the bads too, like I 26 shots in the first period. You're getting outshot 26-7 in a game that Zarenko's first game back. They weren't worried about, a re-injury because they just didn't play defense in front of them. I can't make sense of that. Giving up 56 shots.
The defense to me was the biggest issue, and it bothers me when you're dressing 7 defensemen because Joey Duzak was playing forward all week. Yeah. And I'm not pinning this on Duzak. I'm looking at the number. Yeah. Like, you had 7 guys dressed, and you still couldn't clear the front of your net. And in that game, the shots were coming the 3-4 at a time, to where there's 3 Thunderbirds players standing there watching all these Laval guys shot, rebound, shot, rebound, shot, rebound, shot, rebound. It's like, what is it? Somebody get a body on somebody else and clear the front of your own net. It was. And yeah, they gave up, I believe, 90 shots in 2 games. That is just too many. And I don't think they won the shot battle in any period, in any of the 6 periods at home.
Yeah.
Outshot against Laval. I guess they won the second period 12-11 against Bridgeport. But other than that, they lost every other period in shots. And I know, again, shots aren't goals, but boy, are they a reflection on the way you play defensively, and quite oftentimes a reflection of the score. And I say that knowing that the Thunderbirds scored 7 goals and gave up 56 shots and won, right? Like,
yeah,
but you can't play like that. And then, of course, Zarenko worked so hard that he got got dinged up in the third period, finished the game, and then he was scratched Saturday night.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you wonder, I mean, it's not, it doesn't need to reflect the score, but I do think it reflects energy spent. And when you're playing the middle game of a 3-3 and you know you've got a quick turnaround Sunday afternoon, I mean, it not an excuse, a reason why they come out like a dud, other than the bitten fights against Bridgeport. They're exhausted. I mean, you're doing, you're just chasing, you're chasing. And I always feel like defensive energy feels a little different. You know, you drain a little bit more than you would offensively. I feel like when you're not in control of where you're going, you know, it's like, to make a football analogy, there's a reason why, you know, a no huddle or a you know, a 2-minute offense helps the offense. You're playing the same every play, but defensive energy, when you're reacting to the offensive play, right? I just feel like it takes a little bit more out of you. And that's all this team is doing lately. And, you know, the ups and downs of this team, the inconsistency, I kind of expected, all right, well, you gave up 56 shots to Laval. You're going to be in a defensive battle against Bridgeport. You're not going to score 7 again, because again, we know this team is up and down. They're opposite every other day. So I expected a low scoring defensive battle against Bridgeport. I was wrong there, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. The Laval game, it was fun. It was good. Great victory. A perfect example of not quantity, but quality. I think offensively, they played great. They took advantage of every opportunity they had.
agreed.
You know, whether it
And
be
the goals were pretty too. I mean,
Yes,
they were some pretty goals.
that's what I mean. I mean, oftentimes we see, oh, they had an opportunity. Oh, you know, Bitten just misses a wide open net, or, you know, a spectacular save by the goalie here and there. This was a case where every opportunity the Thunderbirds had, they capitalized.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the prettiest packaged game, but, you know, I don't know. I do, real quick, two things I wanted to shout out. I know we both wanted to make sure we congratulate Adam Gaudette on his 31st goal there early in the second period against Laval. Congratulations to the hockey god there, with now standing alone there as the Thunderbirds season single season goal scorer. So congratulations to Adam Gaudette. I feel like Drew Callan had a really good week.
Yep, agreed.
He can, we can criticize at times, right? But I feel like he just had an unsung kind of week, whether it was a physical presence, standing up for Dylan Coughlin when he got elbowed a little bit. I think that was him. That was him who jumped.
It was
in
him.
the fray
Him and
there.
Washcrook came flying in like madmen.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this weekend, Drew Callan just seemed to be kind of all over the place. And I felt like, I had a lot of respect for how Drew played this week. And I wanted to highlight on his goal that Sam Bitten assisted on. I don't want to make this the praise Sam Bitten episode, but I notice his reaction when Drew Callan got that goal. So I don't know if you remember that play. Sam Bitten was kind of behind the goal a little bit, and he had a little bit of an open net there, and he kind of missed, and Drew Callan just cleaned it up.
Yeah.
And in the situation, you had a 4-2 lead already. You're kind of putting the nail in the coffin, so to speak, with this fifth goal. There was never a half second where Sam, on his face or his body language, was like, oh, that could have been mine. It was nothing but excitement and joy for the team. And Drew, like, immediately he hands up, he looks at Drew, points, and was just like, yeah. And then, you know, like, sometimes you think some players might be a little selfish or something. A guy who doesn't play very often, doesn't score a lot of goals. You took one away from me. There was none of that. So just little things like that I kind of picked up and noticed, and just wanted to make sure I mentioned. But you know, that's kind of all I got on the Laval game.
Yeah, well, I do think, you know, Sam, on the whole, I mean, I think people have been asking. I think I even said it last week. I don't know what kind of a player Sam is, because I don't get to see him play, and I think that this idea that he's only here to punch people in the face, I just don't think is is accurate. I mean, I look at Matt Rempe up in the Rangers, and they're talking about, well, Matt Rempe's going to go out and he's going to fight everybody's going to fight Ryan Reeves and Nick Delorier, and it's like, well, the guy's got 20 goals in Hartford.
Yeah.
Like, let the kid like actually play the game rather than just get. I don't know if you saw him in the Reeves fight. He looks like a raccoon. He's got two black eyes.
Two black eyes.
Can you just? I know he's 6'7". Can you let the kid play?
Yeah, I almost feel bad for him. Like not really, and I'm sure he's making a name for himself. But I kind of cringe a little bit because I'm like, oof. Yeah, like I agree with you. Give the kid a break. Let him play hockey.
It's good for marketing. It's good for the sport. Yeah. Again, you try to take it out of the game, NHL, but people love fighting. Yeah. They do.
And it's good for him. I mean, it's giving him a lot of, attention. And so it's great for him, but I'm kind of like, oh, give him a break. Like,
and
play a game.
Yeah. No, seriously, just let him play. But no, I'm seeing more from Sam. I think Sam's literally always full of energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's beneficial to him. I think that he doesn't seem out of place. He doesn't seem out of position. And, and just sort of off topic, but on topic, I kind of felt the same about like Mitchell Holscher. I thought had a really nice weekend because he looked like he belonged. Mm-hmm. I thought Tanner Dickinson played fine. One defenseman, number 33. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen all the Anton Malmstrom that I want to see. I'm all set there. But I thought for the forward group, I thought that those guys looked like they belonged.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd like to see maybe MAG come back. Bring him back up from Orlando. I'm with you there. And let's see. Right now, the team they do have a lot of injuries, and they're, you still got rookies. I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. You kind of at the All-Star break. All right, rookies, like let's end the rookie season and let's get into the second half of this season. And not play rookie hockey. And I think Dean and Bolduc he's still doing his thing up in St. Louis, but they both have kind of answered that. But yeah, I'm kind of with you there from the young guys on the defense. Let's see Marc-Andre Gaudette. Let's see if he can come back. I mean, I didn't feel like he was a super liability when he was here.
No, I didn't either.
No more than anybody else, kind of.
No, I mean, when you're looking at when your options are Malmstrom, Osmansky, and Gaudette, it's like, why don't you just go with the 22-year-old? I don't know. I Gaudette to me also. So the interesting thing is like Marc-Andre Gaudette's played a lot of games here. Not a lot. He's played a handful of games here. And I still sit here and think that I've never seen him on the ice. Like I don't remember him being on the ice, which to me is a good thing.
That's a good thing.
If you're especially as a defenseman, if you blend in and I don't even know you're there, that means you're doing your job.
Yeah.
If you're
agreed.
33 and you're watching him going, hey, what are we doing here? So obviously that guy didn't have a great weekend, but I like the idea of sort of pursuing other options. That position. I have one other thing from that game I wanted to get to, but first I wanted to make sure that we pay our bills here because the SRG podcast proudly sponsored by White Lion Brewing. Their new location in Amherst on North Pleasant Street. They had a comedy night. I guess they're doing a weekly comedy night at the Amherst location, which sounds like fun. Of course, they're right in downtown Springfield at Tower Square as well, 1500 Main Street, the place to go prior to Springfield Thunderbirds games. Parking this weekend was a battle. It was definitely a battle. That's why you need to park in the Tower Square garage. Go into White Lion, show them your Thunderbirds ticket, and they'll validate your parking for you. And while you're there, grab some Boomer Nachos, some Seuss Mac and Cheese, Hall of Fame wings, along with any of the 20-plus beers they have. Don't forget, you can find your favorite White Lion beers right in your local liquor store cooler. White Lion Brewing in Amherst and in downtown Springfield, proud local supporter of the SRG podcast, and by the fine folks at YOLO Healthcare Consulting. They offer education, training, tutoring, coaching, and mentoring for healthcare professionals and students. Founding owners Yolanda Mero and Lola Rios are doctorate-prepared nurses with over 40 years combined bedside, academic, and leadership nursing experience. They offer assistance to individuals navigating the healthcare system for long-term care and home care planning needs. They're founded right here in Western Mass. YOLO Healthcare Consulting are the ones to contact to help you bridge the gap if you're traversing the healthcare landscape. You can reach out to them at yolo.healthcareconsulting@gmail.com, or you can give them a call at 413-627-0609 and tell them that the guys from SRG sent you. And yes, we are very happy to have along landscaping that fits. It is that time of the year. Spring is in the air. It's the perfect time to rejuvenate your outdoor space with landscaping that fits. Temperatures are beginning to rise a little bit. The ground begins to thaw. It's prime time for refreshing your spring cleanup. I don't know about you, Matt, but we had a nice day over the weekend. Was it Saturday? And I went in the backyard and it was just sticks all over the place. I'm like, I got to pick all these things up. Why would I do it when I could have landscaping that fits? Do it. They'll do it for you. They can handle all the hard work, ensuring your yard becomes the envy of the neighborhood. With landscaping that fits, your lawn dreams come true. You can call them at 847-0338. Schedule your lawn care service needs. You can visit them on the web at landscapingthatfits.com. That's FITZ, landscaping that fits. And check them out on social media too. They're on Facebook. They're very busy as well. And don't forget, they also offer additional services like weekly mowing, exclusive weed and feed lawn service programs, mosquito tick control treatments, fall cleanup, aeration, overseeding. It's the kind of thing where, like, are you paying one company for mosquito and tick control and then another company to do your weed and feed and then another company to do your lawn service? Like, just call them and they'll do it all. Like, save yourself the hassle and just consolidate.
Confusion is sending this payment here, this payment here. Send it all to Fitz.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, send it all to landscaping that fits. That's FITZ. You can see the logo right here above my head. Just going back quick to the Laval game, I noticed a little bit of, I don't want to call it outrage, but Thunderbirds fans were a little upset with the suspension to Lias Anderson only being one game. And, I'm biased because I just despise the Montreal Canadiens. I have my whole life. And you look at their roster, I could probably pull it up, but I feel like they have more penalty minutes than anybody else in the division. I thought, you want to talk chippy hockey, man. They're just so dirty and chippy. And that play by Lias Anderson was one of the dirtiest hits I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Strictly from how it was done. And Ryan put it so eloquently on the broadcast to where it was premeditated. He looked, saw Coughlin, and said, you know what, instead of getting the puck, I'm going to deck this guy right in the chin with my elbow. Yeah. And I think fans are a little upset that it was only a 1-game suspension. And I've sort of touched on this a little bit with them on social media, but I believe this is, again, I'm not in charge of this thing, but I'm 90% positive that when they're going to apply a suspension, and this is the NHL and the AHL, they take into consideration what gets called on the ice. So, for instance, he got a game misconduct. To me, they consider that part of the suspension. So if he had gotten a 5-minute major, like a 5-minute major and a 10-minute misconduct, but wasn't thrown out of the game, it probably would have been a 2-game suspension. But they see that it was called a game suspension and they kind of tack that on. Now, is that fair because it happened halfway through the third period and it's not a real game because he still played 2.5 periods before this all happened? Sure. You can make that argument and there might not even be a lot of necessarily truth to what I'm saying, but I'm almost positive that they'll look at the score sheet, see what the penalties were, and include that into the discussion. Now, the other thing they include in, which I think is kind of gross, and they do this in the NHL too, if Coughlin was out cold, bleeding from the head, had to get helped off on a stretcher, that would have been a 7-game suspension.
Yep.
I think taking how hurt the guy is into account, to me, is gross.
I'm with you. I agree with that. I mean, you look back just a week ago when Vrana got his 2 games and, you would make the argument, well, he used his stick. And again, the optics of a stick up to the head is a lot different than an elbow. But everything you touched on, I agree with. It was premeditated. It was a nasty hit. It was a dirty hit. He did. You can see it on AHL TV. He looks back and he swings his elbow, not even at all trying to play a puck. He is looking to injure elbow to the head of Dylan Coughlin. I'm curious, and I had a hard time finding more information out at the AHL. Doesn't seem to really disclose financial sort of, if there was a fine. I couldn't find one.
I think you lose game checks.
Yeah. So
you just don't get paid for that game, but
that's where I would then the idea of just because you got a game misconduct, like, because I kind of think if you're talking about consequences that deter behavior, I can miss a game, I can miss 2 games. Now you're hitting me with 2 game checks. It's a little different. I
Mhm.
got to pay bills.
Especially at this level. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I got to pay bills. I got to put food on the table, whatever the case may be. I always feel like fines are more to the individual who's committing an act. You fine me, I'm more likely not that hurts more. Yeah, it hurts the team when I'm not playing, but what hurts me is when you're affecting my paycheck. So, if it's a 1 game and a bit of a fine, okay. I mean, the only reason I can in my head where I'm justifying, not agreeing with, but kind of understanding how Vrana gets 2 for his check is, again, he used his stick.
Mhm.
Now you could argue Elias Anderson used his elbow as a weapon. He did. But still, I mean, I'm glad it was addressed. I'm not up in arms over just 1 game. I don't feel like it would have been egregious if you gave him 2 either.
Yeah.
So at least it was addressed. It's documented. If it happens again, it's probably a lot more lengthy of a suspension.
And again, one of these things that we talked about with the Paul O'Du situation with the Bridgeport game, and I'm not trying to beat up on Bo Halkitis, but like, you give Drew Callen two minutes for roughing in a game in a 10-minute misconduct.
Mm.
What was more egregious?
Yeah.
Like, it should have been a 5-minute power play. Instead, it's only 3 because you had to give Drew Callen 2 minutes for what? Sticking up for his teammate? Like,
Yeah.
What do you expect those guys to do?
Yeah.
Like, literally everybody in the arena saw that and was ready to jump on the ice and attack this guy. You expect the teammates to not do anything about it, and they're going to get penalized for it. Give them the 10-minute misconduct. That's fine. But to cut into the power play because he stood up for his teammate after something that was that blatant and egregious, I don't understand. And I don't think it's, I don't know. How can you watch that happen to a teammate and be like, I'm going to stick up for him, but I don't want to get a penalty. So like, what are you supposed to do? So I found that agitating. As you could tell by the tone of my voice.
I like it. We'll get you to do that again. That was good.
So tip of the hat to Drew Callen, like you mentioned earlier. I thought that to me was the most telling part. He and Kean Washcrook flying in there like bandits to go after Anderson. Anderson, I mean, again, Ryan touched on the broadcast. This is the guy who threw his silver medal into the crowd at the World Juniors because he wanted gold. Yeah. He's the guy who cried and whined about being in Hartford when he was drafted by the Rangers. This is a player who you look at guys that you're like, I'm really glad that guy's not on my team strictly from an attitude perspective.
Yep.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
We don't have to deal with that guy. And we only have to play him a couple times a year. So anyway, nice win against Laval. We'll take it 7-3. And they can go back to French Canada and not get any Americans on their team because they're borderline xenophobic. Did I say that? I didn't say that. I didn't hear it. Said that. We can go back. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it here, but looking back at the Providence game, they lose 4-2 on Friday night. And I don't know about you, but I'm just looking at before the game even comes out. I saw the 2 rosters, and I'm looking at Providence, and it's Lizell, and it's Merkulov, and it's Beecher, and it's Harrison and Frederick Brunet and Brandon Bussey. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy smokes, like they are freaking loading up for this game. And then I look at us, and it's, we got defensemen playing forwards, and we got ECHL call-ups, and I'm like, holy smokes, man, like this could be a bloodbath. And I give them credit.
It wasn't, though. I mean,
it wasn't. It was a good game. The shot totals were low. They lost 4-2. I thought they kind of held their own, considering.
I did. I am quickly learning to just take every game as a game with this team because we don't know what to expect on a night-to-night basis. But I couldn't help myself again after Friday night's game thinking like, "Ooh, let's play a good weekend of hockey." Because you're right. The rosters didn't equate, and to give Providence a little bit of credit, they took care of their business. I think that's kind of been our downfall when you look at our roster and Bridgeport's roster, even currently, like right now with the injuries we have and the call-ups that we have, you look at the rosters, they don't equate. I think Springfield's is a stronger roster, yet we can't take care of business against Bridgeport. But I didn't think we looked outmatched. I thought we played sound defense. I think Goaltending was strong from Subban. It just was, we kind of were outmatched from a roster standpoint in this one. And that's going to happen. But I thought it was a good showing. It was a good game. And maybe that did carry, I shouldn't say like it didn't, maybe that did carry a little bit into Saturday's game against Laval, but I don't know, there really isn't much more to say from my perspective. Tough
it is
loss.
what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, I can stomach it. It shouldn't be this way, but again, just to be honest with everybody, it is what it is. I look at a 4-2 loss against Providence much differently than any loss to Bridgeport, because I feel like it shouldn't. An L's an L, a dub's a dub, but they feel a little bit different to me.
And this is why when I hear people talk about, well, the Boston Bruins don't have anything in the system, and I'm like, would you go down to Providence and watch a game?
They're good.
I mean, they're stacked. I mean, they're stacked. And of course, Hershey just got sent Evgeny Kuznetsov down from Washington. I mean, there's a guy.
And Dubé came back. Pierre Dubé came back.
So like those two teams, I think, are just absolutely stacked at the top of the division, and I think they're getting nothing but better. And like you said, to kind of hold your own in that situation, I think is completely reasonable, especially just. And again, who knows? Maybe next weekend it looks different.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a pretty decent showing, and you're right. The frustration from the Bridgeport game to me is so much more than the Providence game. It's just not even funny. Only one other thing I wanted to mention before we go looking ahead to this coming this weekend's upcoming games. The St. Louis Blues, I've been following a little bit, and it seems like they're in a little bit of a crunch time here where they're playing teams that are in their division right with them in the standings, and they're winning these games.
Yep.
I think they've won maybe 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5. And I'm interested to see as we get closer to the trade deadline, what's that's going to mean. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? I look at it as if they sell, maybe they're getting top prospects that end up in Springfield. Are they getting draft picks that get us more prospects? If they're buyers, are they getting rid of young talent or draft picks? Or, for some reason, Adam Gaudette's always traded. I don't know why. The guy's been traded like 5 times. But if you're a team and you're like, well, we need depth scoring, and you look and see this guy's got 31 goals in the minor leagues, and you're whatever, pick a team, Seattle, for an example. Do you look at the numbers and say, well, yeah, sure, we'll take that kid, So it'll be interesting. Keep your eye on St. Louis and how they're playing and what speculation might be come trade deadline, because I think they're in a really unique spot here. St. Louis is.
They are, and I mean, the name that keeps coming up across my feed is Buchnevich. So it will be interesting to see what direction they go. You're kind of in no man's land if you're St. Louis a little bit. You're not really honestly contending for a cup, but I can say this too. Like, you look at what the Panthers did last year, and I haven't, obviously I'm following St. Louis from a distance as a Thunderbirds fan, but not diving into every game like I am in the AHL level. If you're being honest, I don't know if there's even that potential of a Florida run that they had. They're getting good goaltending from Binnington. He was kind of rumored in some trades at the beginning of the year, but he's played well. But you're kind of in that no man's land. Like, all right, if we're being honest here, are we contending for a cup? If not, what can we do so in a year or two we are contending for a cup?
Yeah.
And if the answer is, well, we got to keep Buchnevich, then you kind of sit put and you hope that these young guys continue to progress. The Zach Deans, the Leo Loofs, the Kessels, who I would expect to be up in St. Louis next year, right? Tucker does. Nikita Alexandrov, what happens with him? He seems like a limbo roster spot right now. He's not really getting a lot of play, especially with Bolduc up there. So, Armstrong's got a lot of, and Drew Bannister have a lot of decisions to make, tough decisions to make.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. Are the guys on that roster, the old veterans, where you're like, you know what? Somebody's going to knock us over with an offer and you can go on a cup contending team and go make a run.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not looking at the contracts now, but I look at just Braden Shen, Torrey Krug, Scandella, Justin Falk. Like, these guys have been around. And if they want to go somewhere where they are a real cup contender, and you get bowled over for an offer, I don't know why you wouldn't take it if you're St. Louis, but that's what puts them in a really, really interesting spot.
Yeah.
So just one more thing to keep our eye on. And, as we look forward to this weekend's game, guess who on Friday, Matt? Guess who on Friday night?
I don't want to say it. The
Sound Tigers.
Bridgeport. Yeah, Bridgeport Islanders. Here they come. Look, I told you I never want to watch another Thunderbirds Bridgeport game this year. But here they are.
I might call out.
Let's look. I hope. Here's what I will say: that this is the third 3-3 in 3 weeks. Last one for a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see what Coach Tkachuk decides to do with the goaltending. I kind of, he gave 3 goaltenders a shot this weekend. We'll see what he does this week. Just don't lose, please. I don't know what.
True though, it's just
don't lose,
at least
please.
if you're gonna lose, just don't make it ugly.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it shouldn't be this way. If you lose 1-0, it's an ugly loss because again, I can't get it out of my head how inept the Islanders have been against everyone else in the league for the most part. And for some reason, they just have the Thunderbirds number this year. So let's just don't lose, please.
And then
I don't know.
It's so true though. And then Saturday night is Pink in the Rink night.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Me too. Against Toronto, who we never really see, but Toronto is above 500. They're 23-18-9, 181 goals for, 159 against. That's a really good plus minus with goal differential. By the way, the Thunderbirds now -1, 171 for, 172 against. So I'm interested to see Toronto because we don't really see them, but I love Pink in the Rink night, and the jerseys are gorgeous. So
jerseys look awesome. I love the fact that it's a special night, the special jerseys, along with the team that we don't see a lot. So I don't really know much about Toronto. I'm excited to be there. I'll be there on Saturday.
Nice.
Really looking forward to this one. Again, I love seeing teams we don't often get to see. So I'm looking forward to this one. This will be a fun one.
And we'll have a post-game jersey auction as well with myself. I think Kevin's back. I'm not sure if it'll be Kevin Johnson or his big brother, Eric. Is this his big brother, little brother? I don't know. Either way, his brother, Eric.
His sibling.
So we'll look forward to that. And then again, Sunday, like you mentioned, 3-3, and now you're tired. Now you got to go to Providence. So
yeah, now, but again, it's a team that we've played well against, haven't won lately. And again, I think without the historic run that Hershey's on, you're looking at this Providence team saying, like, holy crap, they're good. And they are. They were off to a really slow start, and they turned things around maybe a month and a half, 2 months into the season, and have not looked back at all. They've just been climbing. They've been taking one team down in the standings at a time. So
I think Providence is the best team in the division. I mean, I know what the record, what the standings say, but if there's one team I don't want to play, let's say the playoffs started tomorrow, it's Providence. If I had to pick one team to win it all, I'm picking Providence.
Yeah. So, ending the third 3-3, let's just hope our boys get healthy. Pekka, McGing, Diener. Let's hope these guys get healthy and we stay healthy after this weekend. If I'm hoping to get 2 wins out of it, Pink in the Rink and against Bridgeport, and we'll see what happens against Providence.
I'm not going to give really anything away, but I will just say, and I don't know anything other than what my eyeballs tell me, I would not count on Matthew Pekka for this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens after that, but from what my eyeballs tell me, I would not count on him this weekend. But hey, there's other guys stepping up and playing good, and so we'll hope for the best. And as always, this episode of episode number 26, good for us. Presented by White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield and in Amherst, by our friends at YOLO Healthcare Consulting, bridging the gap for those traversing the healthcare landscape, and by our friends at Landscaping That Fits. Trust them for all of your lawn care needs. Landscaping That Fits. I thought this was a great episode, Matt. A lot of energy, good time. I think we're kicking right along here, and I'm loving doing this with you, man.
Having a blast. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for some of the comments we had in our social media today. I hope we answered all your questions and got into your discussion topics. As always, let's go, Teamer.